Okay, I'm gonna do this video kind of opposite of what you would normally do. We're done cultivating, we're done side dressing. I'm gonna give you a go over of the cultivator because everybody's asking me about what makes it tick. Well, I have a little bit of fertilizer left, approximately maybe 20 gallons. See, I gotta move this tank, it slid on me. It's supposed to be over, but all I'm going to do is I'm going to put some water in there, dilute it a little bit, and I'm going to end up going out and running it out on, depending on when this weather changes, because it's too wet to do much of anything in the fields. I mean, it's too wet to even take the gator out right now. But if I get a chance, I'm either going to go run out the last of it on some of Dad's corn, or I'll go through and I'll just run it out on some of the beans. Not sure what kind of effect it would have on them, if any, but as of right now I can get through on some of our corn yet. I mean, the cultivator itself, I can sneak down the rows with the 40-20 yet. I mean, the rows do run between the axles really well. The big thing that'd be slowing me down is maybe it hit the front axles and started snapping corn off, but like I said, I'll cross that bridge when we get there. This is parked here for a couple of reasons. The cultivator and the 40-20 are in the way. I need the 40-20, so this is where I'm going to be unhooking it so it's out of the way for the time being so I can do some other tasks. And yes, I'm going to be talking over the wind. First off, what is pumping the fertilizer? All right, everybody notices there is no PTO pump. I don't know if my videos showed it too much, but it is an electric pump. Very simple. You can get this at Farm and Fleet. It's a 5 gallon per minute pump. This is the second year I've had it. It's holding up really well, but if it does end up giving out on me, I'll just go through and buy another one. This has to be winterized yet. We got a few jugs of that RV winterizer fluid. We're gonna go through and I'll flush everything out with water. I'm gonna make sure all the orifices are pulled out because the orifices are actually out of the corn planter. Don't ask me about that. But I'm gonna go through, fill these up with winterizer, not full, just enough to get the fill lines full of it. And then I'm going to run it through the filters. I'm going to run it through the pump. The big thing I am actually looking on saving is just to make sure that there isn't any water in here that is going to freeze and destroy my pump. Because 2 years old, if you maintain it properly, it will work out really well. Secondly, as far as the problems I had with it last year, I was plugging the orifices really bad, and the orifices are down in here. You pull these off, and there they are. So I got some of those nutrients that they foam up really bad. But I only had one issue where it plugged, and that was my second to last day, and I noticed it like right away because I got into the habit of, you make a couple passes and regardless of what, because the ground is dry, you can actually pull down through the rows with the cultivator out of the ground with the pump on, and you'll be able to see the rows of the product behind everything. You can just go through and you can count all of your lines in the dry dirt. Works really well. Now, I don't know if anybody's noticed, these hoses are of different length. Last year they were all the right length. I had a couple issues, plus the fact that I had to move this back. This needs to be reworked. This is just, well, let me rephrase that. I guess it doesn't have to be reworked if I go through and I need to put a check valve in line right here. Biggest issue I had was, I don't know why I didn't remember this from last year, but the biggest problem I had is that we are on rolling hills. We do not have hardly any flat ground. I mean, you could probably count the amount of acres we have that are perfectly flat, where the products wouldn't shift between the tanks. You could probably count that in one hand as far as the amount of ground where it's actually level. what I would do, just one check valve in line right here. That way, when the product from here transfers over to the other tank, when I'm filling either of the tanks from the tender tank, which is right there by the way, it will still allow the product to be dispersed between both tanks. It should be a pretty simple fix. I realized it once we started going, and be quite honest with you, once I already had it full of the product, I didn't want to have to cut the line and really lose anything, risk losing anything. Plus the fact that I had stuff to do. But I will have a chance to go through and fix that, because the problem I have with this is that the pump, as you can see, is on this side of the cultivator. So what happens is that it pulls out of this tank first, and really no harm done. I mean, I had a minor leak right back there, but it pulls out of this tank first, so that tank stays slightly filled above that one. But the problem is that you turn around when you get to the end of the strip, and this tank is on the upper end of the strip, or the upper end of the cultivator, and it drains down to that one, which is fine, because if I put a check valve in that will only allow the product to go that way and doesn't allow it to come back, that would work out really well. I was thinking that all day the last 3 days I ran, just because of the fields I was in. Now, as far as the down hoses, I think I already started to talk about these. Ideally, what I would like are hoses that are set up like this, that are leaning more towards the center of the row. I mean, this one's kind of twisted, but I want this product put right next to the base of the plant. The reason for that is because when it's on both sides of the plant, right next to it, it's readily available to the roots. So that way when you get a rain shower, which everything has officially gotten enough rain to get it down to the roots, that plant can take it in quicker, easier, as opposed to knifing it, putting it in right in the center of the row. I was told, you guys are kind of dirty there, how's that? I was told that when you put it in the center of the row, generally, I think it's the roots really only go out 7 inches either way of the plant. You can correct me on that if I'm wrong. I mean, I'm hearing that's secondhand knowledge, but that's what I was always told. Now, these short ones like these really didn't hurt anything. They did put it over a little farther than what I would have liked, but still better than running right down the center of the row, like where the wheels are running. As far as the tines, let's talk about the tines. Back when I first started doing this is a brand new cultivator my grandpa bought. It was set up for a 4-row. You can see this row and the second row from the end are different than the rest, because we went and bought a $600, well, it was a usable cultivator, but it was another 4-row from Strawberry Point. And we scrapped that one out, pulled all the extra parts off of it that we could use, junked out all the junk parts. The cross beam is actually laying down next to the cultivator, or the corn crib, but we got it switched over to a 6-row. And back when Grandpa used to cultivate, this is how he had it set up. He had these narrow tines up front, these wider duck feet in the back, and he had another duck foot like these, just slightly wider. They're 4-inch sweeps, probably about as wide as this, and those were on the backs. Grandpa didn't move much dirt, hardly any at all. Basically, he just scraped the surface to basically knock out any weeds that he could hit. Myself, this was my fifth season cultivating, and every year I tweak it a little bit in my head as to how I'd want to do this. The sweeps, these were a trial run last year. I was walking through Tyson's down in Dubuque, and I saw these in the Cultivator parts, and I says, hey, those may do exactly what I want them to do. And as a result, we went through and put them on the rest of the units. Yes, I lost a sweep down there, but what it does is it throws dirt over top. It throws enough dirt. I mean, it does hit the rows, and what it does is it covers up that product so I don't lose any of it. You know, from the sun drying it up, at least it keeps it in the soil. It protects it. That's really what I want. Yeah. But another change that I would be thinking about doing going into next year is I have no problem putting these straight narrow tines on these center. Oh, this one already does. On these center tines also. I mean, I'm not too crazy about these duck feet. This is not a perfect cultivator setup. It does have some sway. You guys have noticed from previous videos that the tractor does run awfully close, danger close to the corn rows. Not something we can really do anything about. We've tried narrowing these tires up more. The hubs, the axles, are completely frozen on. We tried for a full day trying to get them narrowed up, and it wasn't going to happen. So what we ended up doing is we pulled the bolts out of the rim and we just spun the tires around on each side. I mean, it got us there, but you guys know it's close. You have to be really, really aware of what you're doing when you're running this, because iron blight, you guys have already commented that a few times. So the biggest plus to this setup really was the inline filters. I cleaned them twice in the week and a half, 2 weeks that I was cultivating. Not like completely plugged, solid full, but enough that I'm very glad that I had them on. And like I said, every year I'm constantly, you know, I need to do this different, I need to do that different. Now, one more thing I'm going to show you, because this video is getting awfully long and I'm not gonna lie, it's kind of slowing up my day here. This is the view from the cab. This is what you see. I mean, you are kind of blocked a little bit because the window is a little dirty, but as far as running this fertilizer, this is how I apply the fertilizer. I literally just drive like this, one hand on the steering wheel, one hand on the cultivator, or on the controller. This is what I call a poor man's variable rate controller, because all I do is simply on and off with my thumb, and then I can go up here. When you're getting into areas of the field, you can control the rate just by doing that. What that does, you guys are probably aware of the fact that we've been doing yield maps. We have the combine set up for running the harvest data, so we know what our yields are doing year in, year out. So by using this controller like that, I am able to start off in the mornings, look at my harvest data from previous years, and just from a lifetime of running these farms and knowing that this is kind of lower producing ground, maybe a little bit more fertilizer isn't going to hurt it. And what it does is that poor man's variable rate unit, you're driving into it and you can roll your thumb and turn the rate up, and then when you know you're getting back into better soil or better area of the field, you can start dropping it back down to where it should be. So granted, it's not an exact science, it's more of a tweak it as you go kind of thing, but I like cultivating, I like what we're doing. It's improvement as you go. But I hope this clears up on any of the questions you guys had about this, because this cultivator is going to be cleaned off, winterized, and hopefully put away before the farm day. At least that's my plan. So with that, thanks for watching. Take care, take it easy, keep in touch. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow.